gentlemen, and welcome to Gig Masters, your channel for tips on how to get and keep more gigs. I'm your host, Mooney Man. On this episode of Gig Masters, we're going to talk about some tips on forming a band. Many years ago, when I was just starting out, the ways that you would try to put a band together was, and this was in the days before the internet, you could meet a potential bandmate at school, maybe. You could put an ad in the local newspaper for a drummer wanted or something like that. You could hang a wanted poster at the local music store / guitar shop, and you could go to a music venue and try to recruit one of the band members from an existing band, or you could go to like an open mic night or like a jam, an open jam that was organized and held regularly. You could go there and try to recruit a potential bandmate. But these days we have the internet, and there are music services. For example, there is BandMixcom. You can go on there and try to find other band hopefuls in your area, or for that matter anywhere. You could go on gigmasters.com and try to put a band together that way. And by the way, gigmasters.com is not, I'm not affiliated with them. They're spelled different. Theirs is one word, mine is actual two words. I have nothing to do with them, nor do I want any part of that industry. I'm a completely separate part of the industry, but I recommend them if you want to try to put a band together or get gigs. You can go on gigmasters.com. But the disclaimer is that I have nothing to do with them. If you want to put a band together to do live music performances, you can check out those sites, and I will leave links below to bandmix.com and gigmasters.com. Now, if all you're interested in doing is hiring someone to play on a recording, like if you're not interested in doing live performances and you just want to record, you can go on the internet and do streaming and sharing services like Fiverr. Fiverr's fantastic. For example, let's say you need to record a bass part and you want to have it recorded by a professional bass player. Well, you can go on Fiverr and hire a guy. You can pay him anywhere from $1 to it depends on their talent level. It depends on their particular rate. But anyway, I will leave a link below to Fiverr. And you can also use Craigslist, Facebook. There's any number of, there's countless looking for musician groups all over Facebook and Craigslist. But that's thankfully an easier way to do it these days, because in my day, you were just basically, if you met somebody at school, they could play, kind of like the Beatles. They met in school and they hit it off, and the rest is history. But anyway, let's talk about some things that you may want to consider when you are selecting these potential bandmates, or if you're possibly going to hold an open audition, like if you've got more than one person interested in the position in your band and you want to find out which one to go with, here are some things you may want to consider. If you hold auditions for a spot in your band, some important things to pay attention to, other than that person's musicality, are, for example, is their equipment in good condition? And what I mean by that, let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I had to hold auditions for a drummer. My drummer passed away Mark Steger was a fabulous drummer, and God rest his soul. He had his own demons to deal with, and ultimately it culminated in his death. And I had to find another drummer. So I held open auditions, and I auditioned about 50 drummers in a month's time. And a couple of the things that these auditioners would come over to the studio to audition, what they were doing was, one guy pulls up, and we had a drum set in the studio ready to play, but I gave the auditioners the option to bring their own equipment if they preferred, instead of playing ours. And this one guy, he brought his drums, and as he was pulling up into the parking lot of this studio that we were holding the audition, I noticed that his drums were in the back of a pickup truck with no cases. So I, out of curiosity, I went over to look at his drums. It looked like he had stored his drums in the back of his open pickup truck bed since he bought them. They were rusty. The laminate was peeling off. They were dirty. They were in sad, sad condition. He was not treating these drums with respect, and quite frankly, there would be no way in hell that I would bring this guy on a high-end country club gig with those drums. It's just not going to happen. So you may want to check to see if their equipment is in satisfactory condition for your band format. Okay, moving on. Are they prepared for the position? In other words, do they have transportation? Can they get to the gigs? Do they have a cell phone so you can contact them in case you get a spur of the moment gig? Do they have decent apparel? For example, on New Year's Eve, a lot of times I'm required to wear a tuxedo. Does this guy have the ability to get a tuxedo, or does he have a tuxedo? And can he wear dressy clothes to an upscale country club gig? Is he willing to wear a tie? A lot of my gigs, I have to wear a tie. So that's important to find out. It's not how good they are. It's if they can do all of these other things that are not related to the music. Which brings me to another point. Is their personality compatible with the rest of the band or your personality? Are they compatible? One of the disclaimers that I like to use on an audition is I will tell the auditioner prior to their audition that, and you may want to use this, we are not looking for the best drummer, we're looking for the right drummer. And I think you can figure out what that means. So anyway, if you preface the audition by saying that, it kind of lines it up for the person, and it gives you an easy out in case they're just absolutely horrible. I have had people that have come in, going back to the drummers, I auditioned these 50 drummers, and out of the 50 drummers, maybe 4 of them were pro level, and it was difficult because there were some times when a guy would come in, set up his drum set, and he'd play 2 measures into one song, and I would say, okay, that's it. We don't, don't call us, we'll call you. Some of these guys can really pad their resume. Their electronic press kit looks very impressive, but when it's time to talk the talk, they just can't do it, and it's a waste of times. It's a waste of your time a lot of times, but sometimes it's a necessary evil. And back to that thing I said earlier about we're looking for the right drummer, not the best drummer. I've run into that situation where a guy comes in and he's a fantastic drummer, and then after the audition he says, well, I'm not sure I can do the gigs because I live 100 miles away. And you think to yourself, well, that was already in the information prior to you driving to the audition. Driving 100 miles every day to a gig is probably not going to be a cost-effective way to make a living. So anyway, moving on to the next thing. You got to find out if the auditioner or the potential bandmate is willing to perform the style of music that your band format is built around, and are they going to like it? Are they going to get some joy out of it, some artistic reward from playing this music that you're doing? If they're not satisfied, my experience has shown that if they're not satisfied with the material that they're performing, that generally leads to frustration. And a frustrated artist is not good to have in your band. They generally, those types of relationships generally don't last long, and they're caustic, and it seems like an uphill grind the whole time. So find out all of these things during the audition or prior to the audition. Is the person going to be the right fit for the band? Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's episode. It's a short one. Thank you for stopping by. If you find these tips helpful, please click the subscribe button, tick the little bell for notifications, leave a comment below, and visit often. Go back and check some of the other episodes out. If you're an aspiring live music performer and you want to get tips on how to get and keep your gigs, this is your channel. My name is Mooney Man. Thank you once again. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great gig. Now, let's go get those gigs.